This is Ready, Set, Renovate, a podcast about remodeling your home with a contractor you trust. Daniel Builders builds trust in 5 ways. One of those ways is connection. What do we mean when we say connection? It's all about being relatable. Regardless of differences, all people share a few common emotions. Showing respect for those emotions goes a long way to creating a connection with someone. Speaking of a long way, our guest brought his family a very long way to be in the upstate of South Carolina. His name is Ricardo Rodriquez, and he came all the way from Bakersfield, California. What prompted that move? And what did he learn in the process? And why are so many others making a similar move into our area? These are a few questions we explore and form a stronger connection in the process. So let's get to it. Daniel Builders is located in the upstate of South Carolina. It's a part of the country that's seeing tremendous growth. People are coming here from all over, from New York, from Chicago, and like our guest today, from California. This is Ricardo Rodriquez joining us, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his story. What was the appeal of this area, the upstate, South Carolina, to you coming from California?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Will.
Yes.
I appreciate the invite and discussing my story and what brought us out here. This whole thing has been about 6 years in the making. So I was mentioning to you that we purchased 2.5 acres back home in California, and we couldn't even get a hill leveled back home. And so COVID hit in 2020, and in 2021, I was working for a Fortune 100 company that remained closed down. So I couldn't go out in the field and visit. All my work was done remotely. So my wife thought it'd be good, let's just load up in a fifth wheel and hit the road and go explore the country.
So you were going, no particular destination. You were just going out there through the country.
Well, we had the big 3 in mind. So okay. Texas, Tennessee, Florida, and the so-called free states. And so when we initially hit the road, we visited several places throughout the country. Of course, Texas, Greater Dallas. We made our way down to East Texas, which started to get some trees, so it looked beautiful. But Texas really wasn't a spot that we saw ourselves living long term. We made it up through Tennessee, and we got into Middle Tennessee, East Tennessee, and we thought this place is beautiful. Mm-hmm. We ended up putting an offer in on a house at some point between now and back then.
So at this point, you didn't know if you were going to purchase an existing home or build.
Right.
You had just made the decision you were leaving California.
Yeah, that's right. And on our way down to Florida, we stopped off in South Carolina because we had some friends that were planning on making a move out here. And so we pulled in October of 21. It was hot, which was strange because I was expecting some cool weather out in the South. And but it was during football season, so all the festivities and activities that come with that, kind of drew us in, and we enjoyed our month-long stay that was here. We did end up going to Tampa, Florida, to explore the area, but it was 75 degrees and 100% humidity when we pulled in at 5 o'clock at night.
Woo!
Yeah, and when we the next morning when I went to take my dog out to the restroom, it was 75 degrees and 100% humidity. So there was no relief.
Yeah.
And so we thought, we're out
cool
here.
Of the evening or cool of the morning.
None of that. So we realized quickly that Florida was not our final destination. So in making our way back, we stopped again in Pendleton.
Yes.
And just explored the area. Again, we were looking for land. We owned 2.5 acres back home. And so there was things worked out. And
did you have a contact that said, hey, you need to check out Pendleton, South Carolina, or was it something you just kind of stumbled upon?
Well, the folks we knew were exploring the Anderson area.
Gotcha.
We were staying in Pendleton. The draw to Pendleton for me, okay, my wife might give you a different answer, but there's only 2 or 3 stoplights.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Oh,
That's fantastic. So just the
very
the
much a small town feel.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my hometown 25, 30 years ago was a similar feel. Mm. You could drive a few miles out of the city limits, and it's dirt fields or it's orchards or whatever, farmland. Now you're in another development, which is typical of a growing city, but I missed that.
That was what you were looking for. You wanted that small town feel. And did you know at that point, once you saw Pendleton, hey, this is it, this is where I want to be? Was the decision made at that point, or was there still some deliberation?
Well, like I mentioned, we made our way back through East Tennessee,
Right.
and there was a property with a house on it that was within a year old. 2.5 acres near the Tennessee River. I mean, you could see the river from the house. The house was beautiful, custom made, unique in its development, and it was beautiful. And so we actually put an offer in on that.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we were ready to East Tennessee or Middle East Tennessee would have been a good stopping place for us. But the Lord shut that door, and this opportunity opened up about a year later.
So when you decided on Pendleton, did you know that you were going to build, or were you just saying, hey, let's find the best scenario for us as far as a family? Let's explore all our options. You have production homes, you have custom homes, you have existing homes that you can remodel, which is what we do here at Daniel Builders. What was your strategy once you identified Pendleton as my place?
Well, the latter is true. So we certainly were open to any idea. But we had 2.5 acres in California that we've been trying to develop for the better part of 5 years at that point. And so we were very interested in this idea of homesteading because all the things we enjoy, the strawberries, steaks, milk, all the stuff, right? We wanted to grow ourselves. We didn't want to be tied to or limited to whatever the store was limiting us to or rationing for us at the time.
Sure,
I mean,
yeah.
the COVID environment really accelerated that concept. So, and so we were working with multiple builders and just couldn't even break ground. So,
And this was in California?
this was in California,
Wow.
right? And get this, and this is kind of a side note that may come into play. It would have cost $50,000 to drill a well in California if you could get it permitted. Here, there's no necessarily permitting necessary, and it's going to be a fraction of that cost. So we're going to get well water, clean water from the ground, the way God intended it.
Yes.
And we're going to be able to do just that. So to answer the question, we couldn't, no matter what we did, we couldn't get the building process moved. So we come and we make another trip out here. This property that we purchased ended up coming up for sale, a total of 26 acres. And there was a neighbor that didn't want it to go to a developer. They didn't want it developed. They didn't want it to track homes.
Which for that area, developers are being attracted. I mean, there's a beautiful area, and with the growth in the upstate, there are those track home builders that see that and kind of licking their chops.
That's right.
But this one said no.
That's right. One of the homeowners wanted to get in on it, but didn't necessarily want all of the property. And so the realtor we were working with at the time found this out, connected us. So we went in together on the purchase. We took 17 acres, they took 10. And so we were able to purchase this land with the sale of that 2.5 acres back home for about the same amount.
Nice.
So it was a nice purchase. It was a nice move. It's a beautiful property.
Picked up 15 extra acres in the process.
Absolutely,
huh?
absolutely. Which means that apparently means we can fit more cows on. So that's what my wife's been on this kick of getting Highland cattle that we're going to start raising and showing and all
Which
that.
are actually arriving today, right? Your cattle is coming in today. Now, did you have any past experience with being on a farm, or is this new to you? Are you kind of learning as you go? Where are you in that spectrum?
It's new, and we're learning as we go. But here's the thing, is that we're allowing ourselves an 18-month learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of this is going to come down to upskilling and educating ourselves as it relates to the farming life. Clearly a lot to learn. Clearly it's going to be a lot of work. I don't doubt any of that. But we're excited and we're ready for the challenge, and we feel like this door that's been opened by the Lord, we have to walk through and we have to honor it.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what we're doing, and we look forward to glorifying Him as a result.
Well, it's been a beautiful thing to behold. I mean, first of all, it's an adventure, right? I mean, you guys have come all the way across the country. It wasn't just like a neighboring state. You made a huge move all the way to South Carolina. And that kind of presents some other unknowns, right? Like, what about the culture? And I'm curious to hear your take as you start to assimilate into a culture. Obviously, there's differences, right?
For sure.
From California. Has that been a pleasant experience, difficult experience? Tell us a little bit about the assimilation into South Carolina culture.
Well, I'll tell you that we are still on the hunt for the best Mexican food in the Southeast.
We don't have any.
I haven't found it. I haven't found it.
There we go.
Although we found a place that came pretty close. And they were rated a C by the health department. So I guess that's a bad sign and a good sign. That means it's authentic.
Right. Yeah.
So I would say that the culture, let's see. So the pace is much more tempered in the Southeast. People tend to be much more polite. And what I mean by that is they'll pause and engage. They'll smile. They'll say hi. You don't get that back in California. It's just a faster pace and a different feel. And in the business line of business that I was in, I work with mid-market corporations. And so I was in Los Angeles. I was in some of these major cities quite frequently. And so I became accustomed to head down, let's work.
Yeah.
And so I would say the change for me is the change in pace and ensuring that I honor the lay of the land and, nod my head when necessary, say hi, engage with people. And really the my call to action in life, according to scripture, is to reach the lost. And so,
Amen.
What's been great about this opportunity is that the Lord is slowing me down in order to do just that.
Yes.
So it's been great. There's been great people. We've met, although I did get cussed out by a man.
Did you really?
It felt like
with a southern drawl? Were you getting?
Oh, and that's what made it.
Believe.
That's what made it actually entertaining. I don't know.
You had the right attitude, and you're not like getting offended. You're this is great.
I was like, how do I take this guy seriously? But no, he was. So here's the other cultural shift: is that it appears that most everyone on the highway, while they're slow paced in the grocery store, they have somewhere to be on the highway.
It's a different pace, huh?
Everyone's in race car in NASCAR, and so he felt like I cut him off, and I felt like I didn't, and so it was a fun little exchange. But outside of that, the culture's been great. Your building's in a beautiful city of Greenville, and they've done a great job to gentrify, I would say, certain areas. Now, I wasn't here pre-gentrification, but from what I understand, this area has come a long way, and so my wife and I enjoy coming up here and having a steak, enjoying the time together. So
Greenville is a great place to be. So you get the country, but then when you need a little bit of city, you come to Greenville.
That's right.
Or if you need a lot of city, you head down to Atlanta, which isn't that far either.
Yeah, I don't need a lot of city.
Not going there anytime soon,
Right.
huh? Well, what would you recommend to somebody who's like, I want to do what he did? That's a really appealing thing to me, to be able to go to that part of the country, which does have its advantages, right? The cost of living is, as you pointed out, different. The general attitude of people is, I would say, pleasant. Hopefully that doesn't offend anybody, but it tends to be more pleasant from what I'm hearing and what I've witnessed over time. But for somebody who sees those appeals and says, yeah, I want a part of that too, what kind of advice would you give them? Would you say, just come on? Or would you say, things are filling up so fast, there's maybe not enough space, prices are rising? Give us kind of a coaching session for someone who's wanting to come this direction.
Well, I mean, again, I'm coming from the perspective of never having done it before. And we legitimately have dove headfirst into this.
Yeah.
And I credit my wife for this. She's really the one that had the idea and said, let's go. If it were up to me, Will, I'd stay home all day and, work with my hands, right? But this is, my wife is the one who has these fantastic ideas. She's very creative. And the way the Lord has shaped her personality and her traits is just perfect for what we're doing right now. And so I'm really along for the ride as it relates to this. But if I had to do it all over again, what I would agree to is certainly to dive right in. And so there's plenty
to just go for it.
Yeah, just go for it. What is it that you're looking to accomplish? So for us, I'll speak for us. What we want to do is ensure that we don't have to rely on a grocery store in order to feed our family. Again, COVID, you go to California, it was shut down for the better part of 2 years. And so you couldn't go to the grocery store. You couldn't buy your basic needs. You couldn't purchase your basic needs for a certain amount of time there.
Yeah.
And so
that was kind of a wake up call, right? Do we want to stay here and sink with the ship? Should the ship sink?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. So I didn't like that experience. I mean, at this point, I have young kids. I don't want them to ever feel that they're trapped by some sort of whatever's going on in the world. And so the whole intention of this, which we were already trying to develop back home, but couldn't get it off, was the idea of being a homesteader. So having our own food, creating our own infrastructure, doing things like this. And so we were already talking about this for a while. It only just came to fruition, or started to come to fruition when we moved to Pendleton. So I'd say whatever it is you're looking to accomplish, just go for it. One of the questions you'd asked me before is, the cost of living there versus here, California versus here. Now, the cost of living is much higher there. We'll say 20+%. By the end of our tenure there, our natural gas bill, so what you use to light your stove, for food, was $600 a month.
Goodness.
It averaged before that $50, $50 to $60. But the last 2 months we were there, it skyrocketed. Now, I couldn't put my finger on it right now as to why that's the case. All I know is that was the trend. And
so again, $600
for a natural gas bill.
For a month.
Correct. Yeah.
That is insane.
For a family of 4. Yes. Now, we could afford it.
Yes.
And I can't imagine how other people are managing through that. I have some thoughts and ideas, but we'll say that for another discussion. But yeah, so the cost of living is significantly lower here, but that's changing quickly. Okay, so for the amount that we're building a house, it is the same cost that we were working on building back in California.
That's interesting too.
Yeah.
So, and that's actually a surprise. You're saying what the builder is charging you was equivalent to what they would charge you in California.
Yep, within range. That's right.
Very interesting.
That's right. And we're being quoted on a pool for $100,000. I'm thinking, no. I'm gonna dig a hole, Will.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fill it up with some water.
There you go.
Life's gonna be good.
You got your pool. That's all it takes, right?
Yeah. So yeah. If anyone ever asks me, hey, what should I do about this? Well, the first thing is have a plan. Know exactly what it is you want to accomplish, and then buy the necessary, elements to develop that infrastructure. If you're just looking for, a few acres in order to farm for yourself, 2-3 acres is sufficient. You don't need 17 acres. We're looking to do some other things, and so that's why we have that much land. But yeah, you don't need to boil the ocean.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Well, over the course of a year, I've gotten to know you and really admire you. I mean, that requires a level of boldness. You weren't just saying those things to do; you actually practiced them, and that's actually the best way to convey a message is what you practice and what you do. And we've seen that. Another thing I appreciate about Ricardo is the fact that he came here almost with a missionary mindset. It wasn't like I want to point out all the flaws that I see all around me. I just want to serve you guys. And Ricardo's joined our church and my church, and has really taken that attitude, made a huge difference, a very positive impact, and we are truly grateful to have you here with us in South Carolina.
Thanks, brother. It's been a pleasure meeting you, knowing you. What's been great is that our wives get to get along well as well. So that's that's a fun dynamic. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate what the Lord's doing. Look forward to seeing what he does in our relationship.
Me too. All right, until next time, we'll see you.
We're delighted you tuned in for today's episode of Ready, Set, Renovate, your guide design build resource. Are you ready for your home to undergo a transformation? We'd love to talk to you about it. Visit us at danielbuilders.com and tell us about the home renovation you envision. In the meantime, subscribe to Ready, Set, Renovate and we'll keep the renovation inspiration coming.